Now in 2003, VH1 did a show called Driven Motley Crue, and they came all the way out to talk to me about Mick Mars. They only used 3 or 4 minutes of it for the show, so I've got a whole lot of outtakes no one's ever seen. But keep in mind, man, maybe I played the drums upside down too long at one point in time and my head exploded because they kept saying his name's not Bob Deal, don't ever call him Bob Deal, and I kept screwing it up and we had to go back and fix it so I could call him Mick Mars, and I apologize for that, but you're gonna dig this because no one's ever seen this before and there's some really good stories and I hope you dig it.
Okay. Whitehorse parked our equipment truck outside Mick's house in Garden Grove, California. So occasionally we'd go over and we'd have a chance to meet Sharon and Stormy and Les, and we'd hang out. And they were like the first band kids. All the other guys in the band didn't have any children, so these were the first 2 little rugrats that would run around during our practices, imitate the movements that the guys in the band made. And so we got a chance to meet them, but they lived in a pretty rundown part of town, actually, and nobody was very well off in those days. And other than that, I never met any of the other family.
What year? Sum up this with the year.
This is all 1973. When I first met Mick, it was all 1973.
And your quote-unquote relationship with him, I mean, I know it lasted longer, but you guys lived together and did Whitehorse from 73 until when, if you could put that into a sentence?
Mick and I knew each other from 73 to 76. We were the only 2 single guys in the band. Everybody else had girlfriends or were living with somebody, so we gravitated to each other. We did everything together. And when I say single, I mean he was married with a couple kids, but he was still a single guy.
Divorced? Separated?
I think they were separated, divorced. I'm not sure exactly what the whole situation was.
Okay. Describe, let's switch gears just for a second. What was, you said Mick's talent on guitar is one of the world's best guitarists. I mean, describe his talent for us on guitar and why it's so good.
The amazing thing about hearing Mick play guitar, it doesn't matter if he was in Whitehorse or if he was in Motley Crue, it's still Mick. And when I hear Motley Crue, I hear Whitehorse. It's odd. Different drummer, different bass player, different lead singer, but the sound is still Mick. It's that Godzilla guitar sound that he had in the 70s. He's had it through the 80s, through the 90s. I mean, if you take anyone out of that band, you could probably still keep the Motley Crue sound as long as Mick's there.
So you think he's the real anchor to the Motley Crue sound?
I've always thought that. I've always thought he's the musician in the band. I mean, you've got the rhythm section with bass and drums and a lead singer, but Mick Mars is the sound of Motley Crue. I mean, there was a time when Mick Mars and Eddie Van Halen were on the same stage at the same time together, and the audience didn't know who they were looking at. And I listened to those 2 guys playing, and I thought, I wonder if there's any other 2 guitar players on the face of the earth that are better than those 2 guys right now. Van Halen was called Mammoth at the time. It was an upstairs-downstairs bar where the downstairs band played and then took a break while the upstairs band was still playing. We staggered our breaks. So we would go down and jam with the downstairs band when they were playing, and they would come up and jam with us when we were playing. Their drummer and I were close. Me and Alex were good friends, and Eddie and Bob were good. Mick. Eddie and Mick were good friends. And we would go down and just jam with those guys. And one time I sat back and just watched those 2 guys playing on stage. And I was just blown away at their proficiency.
Now, at the time, Mammoth, that was with or without David Lee Roth?
That was with David Lee Roth. It was with a different bass player, I think, though. I know it was Alex and Eddie, and David was still there because you're not going to believe this. They didn't like David. The band back then didn't like David, and they were trying to get rid of him. Van Halen didn't like David even back then. They were thinking about getting rid of him. And Mick and I looked at each other like, ooh, Jack, you sing lead. Why don't you replace David Lee Roth and we'll make that a dual lead guitar player band. Talk about a supergroup. But it was just talk.
So just spill it for us on paper. It would have, take your water break, 'cause this is some good music history.